Good morning, Tuesday morning. Here we are at the Boddington. Oh, that's the dog back. Good morning. I hope everyone is well. Tuesday morning. Get up and get started. So, back on masks, really. And we had a wee discussion yesterday about masks, and out of all the vlogs, the amount of personal messages that I got and received and discussions I get into around about that topic of masks has probably been the most impactful since I started it. So good morning everyone. I hope everyone is well. It's a fine morning. We're breezing along here. And right, masks. How are you finding wearing masks? The metaphorical masks that we wear, that we present to the world, that we're doing okay and we're not doing okay. The image that we display to the world, how we want to be seen, how we want the outer world to recognise us, yet so many of us aren't recognising ourselves, we're not recognising our essence. But on the topic of the COVID-19 masks, and this morning I'm walking with two guys this morning and we were talking about masks, we were chatting about the vlog as well, and how intimidating they're finding wearing masks, how they've not got a sense. Like yesterday, one of the guys was saying that he was talking to, he'd met somebody in the supermarket as well, Lidl's, and she was chatting away quite the thing, paying him compliments about his suntan, etc. And he had absolutely no idea who the person was. So we're left feeling somewhat disorientated. And one of the things I never shared yesterday, but what I've noticed about wearing a mask is that I actually put the mask on and there's as if there's a part of my brain is focusing on wearing the mask. And I find that when I'm wearing the mask, when I'm going into shops, I'm more forgetful. And it seems to be that I'm forgetting things because I'm focusing on this mask that I've got in my face. And it's almost as if, although there's not any, it's like I've lost a sense. And what I have been thinking about is, if we were to wear this mask long enough, would our visual sense increase? Would our other senses increase as a compensation against the one that we feel that we've lost? But communication, non-verbal communication, is actually probably more our natural state than a verbal communication. I mean, linguistics aren't that new in comparison to our lifespan. And some of the feelings that we've got around about wearing masks and producing anxiety. And good morning, Lynn. Give you a wee wave. Morning, Hugh. Right, so masks, distractions. The masks that we're wearing in order to present to the world that we're okay and we're not okay. We don't like to expose our vulnerabilities. We don't like to let people know when inside we feel completely terrible. But on the outside we've got the lipstick on if you're a woman, well some guys too, and you put a face on for the world. So, something that women have had that men haven't had is makeup, which is a mask to an extent. If you're feeling terrible or you're feeling pale or you don't feel on colour or you don't feel on your game, women have had the ability to put on makeup, and that makeup would make them feel better, or would at least give them a perspex shield between them and the world that men haven't necessarily had. Women have also historically had more of an ability to speak about their emotions and how they're feeling than men have. I know that men are getting better at it, but speaking about emotional states is something that men have struggled with. It's seen as a sign of weakness if men are to speak emotionally about things and how they're feeling about what's going on. So how have men compensated not having the abilities or the space to speak about what it is that's going on for them emotionally? Whereas women have had that. Women have had masks that they can wear in the form of makeup. And sometimes I have some female friends that I have heard over the years say, "How you feeling today?" And I would say to them, "You know, what's happening with you?" And they're like that. "Well, to put it this way, the makeup's not even working for me today." And it's like, okay. So we've recognised that we've got many different things, many different personalities that we use. You know, the kind of very West of Scotland male, this stiff upper lip and let nothing bother you kind of feeling. And maybe the inability to express these emotions or feel these emotions in men have what's driven a lot of male suicide or drinking or drug taking. Because for a lot of men, the only time that they can have a release or feel that they are able to let the mask go, if you like, is when they've had a few drinks at the pub with their pals, or, you know, they can allow themselves to speak emotionally about things in their life that's causing them distress or angst. So we've come out of COVID-19. One of the conversations I had over the weekend with a buddy Gordon was that we've come out of COVID-19, we've come out of the pandemic, the world shut down. The whole world closed its doors. And because of our natural ability to adapt very, very quickly, we transitioned into that experience, and we're transitioning back out of that experience. And nobody held our hand on the way in, and nobody's been holding our hand on the way out. And we're experiencing a wide range of emotions. Like, for an example, during COVID-19, people that were working all the way through it, frontline workers, they've got a resentment. Some of them have a resentment or against those that have been furloughed. People that have been in a job for 10 years, 20 years, time in 30 years, they've had 3 months off, they've had 3 months at home. They've maybe started to question what it is that they do for a living and why they do it. But they've got no real guidance on how they could move or transition into a healthier or happier way of being for themselves. We've also seen domestic violence and violence against children violence against children. I had to correct myself there, because even children witnessing violence in the home is an act of violence on the child. And that's increased, that's up. And we've got an aftermath of an explosion that we don't have the services to manage it. We don't have the frontline services, we really don't. And mental health charities are exploding. Trying to get an appointment for your child with CAMHS or SAMH is 6-week waiting list. And, you know, we're starting to, are we failing? Are we failing our people? Are we failing as a society? Now, one of the things that has been strong for me is the conversation of connection versus disconnection, and being in a connected state. Now, I can only speak for myself, but there have been periods in my life where I could quite happily have isolated. And when we were in lockdown, to be fair, I had bad days with it, but the majority of it for me was okay, because I'm pretty good with my own company. Yes, there was feelings that was brought up. Yes, there was things that came up, but I managed that and I worked my way through it. And of course we had FaceTime, which isn't the same, but I've noticed, and I'm wondering if you've noticed as well, that since you've came out of lockdown, you have found yourself, when you are getting into situations where it's safe to connect with other people, following the government guidelines, etc., that there's an aspect of you's been really craving that you kind of hook into it more than you normally would have before this pandemic. So a whole array of stories and thoughts this morning around about, we've been in this pandemic, we're still in this pandemic, there's pandemics running within pandemics, and in a lot of ways COVID-19 has exposed a lot of behaviours. It's exposed a lot of flaws in financial structures of businesses, and what we will see undoubtedly is within the next 3 to 6 months, a lot of businesses that were just holding on prior to COVID-19, that really their structure, financial structure, and flaws in their security walls, if you like, have been exposed through COVID-19. And let's see, like there, I heard Marks and Spencer's was paying off a whole load of staff. Look at the companies that, have been household names for decades are starting to close their doors. The system, through COVID-19, a lot of, shall we say, chinks in the armour of our societal system has been exposed due to COVID-19. And we're going to see the aftermath of that, not necessarily immediately, but within the next sort of 6 to 36 months. Of businesses closing. Relationships, again, same thing. What's been uncovered through relationships, interpersonal relationships between man and a wife or whatever, they managed the relationship because he would work away, or a lot of relationships only work because the man works away Monday to Friday, they come home, they have a great weekend. Whatever, that relationship has only managed to work like a business because of the structure that it's been under. And then what's happened is COVID-19's came along, and actually couples are starting to see one another, and a lot of them have fell back in love again, and a lot of them have actually repelled. Some of the magnets have drew each other closer towards one another. Some of the magnets have repelled them further away from each other, and it's started to expose chinks in the armour, and started to expose flaws in the relationship. It's started to expose flaws in businesses. It's started to expose flaws in the structures. So, wearing masks, let's come back to that. How many businesses have been wearing a mask that they've just been treading water, and then when something like this comes along, it exposes the system and it can't operate or function as it was going on? How many people within relationships have just been wearing masks, or were just together for the children? How many people are in relationships, or we're just doing it for the children, or it's just a marriage of convenience, or we're just like companions. We lost the love a long time ago, and people just coexist in a relationship, yet that honeymoon phase has been gone or dwindled from it for a long time. And then when we're forced into a situation like we have been for that 3 months, that, somebody once said to me about childbirth, it's a pain that's very quickly forgotten. When you're giving birth to a child, it's the most excruciating thing a woman could probably ever go through. And then as soon as they hold their child in their arm, the pain is dissipated almost immediately. COVID-19, it was like we went into what could only be described for a lot of people, one of the most painful, where we didn't know, confused states that we've ever been in. And then it opens back up again, and we're all just supposed to follow lead and move back and go straight back into what it was that we used to do before. Not an easy task for anybody. My church, it's not my church, I don't own the church, obviously, it's Church of Scotland church that I go to. I noticed that it was open for worship yesterday at 2:00, and I actually finished it, didn't finish for the day, but I actually finished at 35 minutes past 1. I remember looking at my clock and thinking, I could go down to the church at 2:00. And then I had remembered that the minister had said, please be mindful of those who were not able to watch on on the YouTube channel that's not been able to be part of the ceremony, the weekly worship. So please be mindful of other people. So then I went, right enough. Other folk deserve the chance to go to church more than I do. And I went to myself, really? Other people are more deserving of going to church than I do. Do I want to go to church? Yes, I want to go to church today. Right, okay, and in the inner battle of, oh yes, there's people more deserving, there's elderly in our community, there's people that need the church more than I need the church. And I ended up getting myself into this right royal debate with myself that went on until 2:10. So I missed going anyway. But what I noticed was, I've not went through the doors of the church for 3 or 4 months now. How did I actually feel about walking back in? Because church for me, those that know me, delete the religious component of it. It's a building that I step towards with an intention. It's a place where, now I could do that anywhere, but it's a place that's concrete for me to walk towards with an intention and go in and have quiet time and reflect and connect with other people. And I felt really nervous about going. So was the inner battle of, people are more deserving of a space, a seat at church, they can only take 30 people in, why not give my chair up for somebody that's more deserving of it than me? Was that just an excuse? Was that a mask that I was putting on or telling myself? Because actually I felt really nervous. I felt really intimidated about going back to church. So how many of us give excuses when we're asked to go out on nights out, or we're asked to go for a meal, or we're asked to go and do a place where we can connect, but because of our own anxieties, because of our own difficulties in managing, we refuse invitations, we refuse the opportunity to connect with other people in the outside world, etc. And we make excuses last minute. Can I get a babysitter? Or wee Tommy's took no well. Or, I've just found out I'm working early in the morning. And in actual fact, you could still go out for a few hours. But trying to peel this together before I finish up, what I've noticed as well is that getting out of isolation, getting out of our depressed, anxious states where we're not energised. We've got enough energy pretty much to get up and get our stuff on and go to work for the day, and then come 5 o'clock we just want to pull the curtain shut the door and lock the world outside. How do we start to become more energised? And my conversation that I enjoy having is the conversation of connection versus disconnection. Because any time that you start to connect with other people, we're social animals, we start to feel better. Somebody wrote on, Willie Kelly it was actually, a guy from my childhood, wrote up a thing, how are you going to do your walk? Do you do that every day of the week, or every month of the year? And I said, well, no, I just started this loop daily. I would do this loop maybe once, twice a month. I would cycle it maybe again once, twice a month as well. I'd do it a few times, but I've never done it over winter. I don't think, certainly not at 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe in the afternoon when there's a bit of sunlight. And I said, no, I just started this at lockdown. And we were chatting away about that, but I'd already started planning ahead about how am I going to manage doing this, how am I going to manage doing a vlog at 7 o'clock in the morning in the height of winter. And then I've started to notice, I don't know where you're at in the world, but that's the nights are starting to creep in and the mornings are starting to creep out, if you like. So I'm noticing it like maybe 10 to 9 at night now. We're starting to get into that twilight phase where it's starting to get dawned, and I'm already starting to notice anxiety coming up that, have I missed the summer? Is the summer gone? We've not got long before we move into autumn in Scotland, and then very, very quickly, boom, it's winter, and it gets dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it doesn't get light until 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning. So here we are, I'm in July, and I've had a fantastic July. I've managed to walk the West Highland Way. I'm going away next week to walk the Great Glen Way. I've got a great life. I've got great friends. I've got massive amounts of connection. I've got lots of good, positive things in my life. Yet here it is when I'm outside working in the garden, or watering my tomato plants, or whatever it is I'm doing outside, and I look at my watch and I look up and it's starting to get dark. That dread feeling's already starting to fill me up. And I'm just wondering, is this just me? Is it just me that's starting to think these kind of thoughts? Have we missed the summer? Has this disappeared? Has COVID-19 stole these months from us that we're never going to get back? So they're just some thoughts that I've been having. And today was certainly very unprepared. And the reason it was unprepared was I'm part of my wee walking group this morning. And I was chitter-chattering away with them on the way up. And hadn't really gave the vlog very much thought. And I'm sorry about that. But we're back on tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Just some questions, some thoughts. It was interesting how I got quite a lot of feedback about masks and how people are feeling about wearing masks. And I genuinely think that having a conversation, an honest conversation with ourselves, how do you feel about them? How do you feel about wearing a mask? Now, again, there's the COVID-19 mask, but I'm also interested in when the world stopped and there was nobody externally to bounce ourselves off of and get our needs met, that codependent reality that we inhabit, where even a smile or a slight flirt with a checkout girl or checkout guy, or somebody that looks at your trainers and it validates that your trainers are cool, makes you feel cool. The amount of validation and recognise how we get recognised by our external world get taken away from us for 3 months. But I'm sure that a lot of people experienced the self-isolation where they didn't get to see anybody, which meant they weren't able to be reflected through the eyes of a significant other in order to feel seen, heard, met and experienced. Now, there's an aftermath from that. There's got to be an aftermath from that. And I think that as a community, it's helpful that we have to start to have these kind of conversations. I do not think it is helpful to have conversations about global economy is changing, digital currency, Trump is part of the Palladians, there's an underground set of caves at Jeffrey Epstein's, and there's paedophile rings being uncovered because the Illuminati is being exposed. There may be some level of truth in all of that, but let's just keep it at ourselves. Let's not use the distractions of conspiracy theories, the distractions of multitasking, the distractions of our labels and masks that we wear, because we will never find our way home as long as we are idolising an illusion of distraction and masks. And I'm wondering what it's been like if you have had a sense of dropping inside over the COVID-19 pandemic, over the lockdown period, where you weren't met, where you weren't seen, where you weren't validated by the external world. And I'm wondering now if that we've been let out the cage and we're able to put on our glad rags again and we're able to be seen and be noticed. I'm wondering if it's the same as it was before you went into lockdown, or I'm wondering if you don't want to be seen now, if you're noticing that if people is paying you attention on the street that would have went unnoticed previously is now causing some kind of distress. So these are things that people that I speak to think about. This is what I think about. I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm certainly not standing on an ivory tower. It's open to discussion, and I'm going to leave those thoughts with you for the day. I hope you have a fantastic Tuesday, and you're back at work. Roll on 5 o'clock. You have a great day and stay cool. Be safe. Later.